back. Welcome to another episode of Vocal Dialect Podcast. I am Knowledge Born 7. I am here with my partner in crime, Kenwater Wakil, as well as we're here with the Street Law Soldiers, General Shaka Kofa, and we also have our good brother Gerald Moore. How y'all doing today, fellas?
All right, brother. Peace.
Right, we got a special guest tonight. We got brother Shock in the building, and he's gonna tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and we're gonna start the show.
So, basically, for those that don't know, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. Let's start there.
Yes, sir.
It's an honor to be on the show, and big ups to you brothers for keeping this kind of, positive propaganda out there, because so much nonsense. It's good to know that this is out there. So I appreciate it, and thank you again, and pray the ancestors carry my words in the right direction. So basically, my name is Shaka Mkassa Shakur. Born and raised Bronx, New York, Harlem, New Yorker at the end of the day. I started out politically in the early 90s with an organization called the Black Panther Collective, which was a brainchild that started, in the early 90s when the East and West Coast Panthers started kind of coming back together and communicating with one another after all that COINTELPRO stuff. And this is one of the formations that started. And I joined it, and I was with it for most of the 90s. And into the early 2000s, I became a member of the New Black Panther Party, like 2005. And that's just been my story the whole way, just organizing on the ground. Started a couple of programs, started a school, the Jiname University. We also had a program in City College called the Assata Shakur Center. And that college, actually, she started that, the late Assata Shakur herself and others. And the administration had threatened to take it from the students. So we got involved. We wound up taking it back and setting up a community center inside City College with the help of people like Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Baba Hiawatha and others. They supported us in that effort, and we were able to start a school there, and we had people coming in getting, education and things of that nature. So it's just, for me, 100% the movement. That's now I'm down in the Atlanta area in Georgia. I've been down here since 2015 and just doing the same thing. Now I'm more into land. I'm on land. I do the whole homesteading thing and teaching our people how to get up out of the cities and stop being so dependent, so we won't find ourselves in situations like we're in right now with this whole SNAP thing and everybody going crazy because they think SNAP is going to end. The goal now is to get people to move from just protesting to actually putting something in place to match the protesting. Not to forget the protesting, but put something on the other side. Because too often we get caught on one side or the other. So that's what I'm about right now, brothers.
Wow. Get into what you want to talk about, brother. The subject matter.
I guess to me, what I've been on lately, just observing our people, you know what I mean? And I think what really has me deepest disturbed is our lack of compassion for one another. That core of why we do this. Because a lot of people talk about revolution, they talk about struggle, and that's definitely on point, and Black Power is on point. But if we don't have that core love for one another, like, the struggle's over. Straight up, it's over. And I'm noticing now we've allowed the colonial mentality of this European to seep into something that's supposed to be based on love. Whether it's George Jackson, Malcolm, Huey, whoever, the core of everything they did was love for the people. And I think in our movement, we've allowed ourselves to get swooped up into the emotional, the anger, which is righteous, but we're allowing it to overtake us now. And so now you see us banging out with this FBA versus the world, basically, and which I feel is one major COINTELPRO plot. And I guess we can get into it later, with the rising of Africa and the positioning of Pan-Africanism globally, it's gotten to the point now where we're where we have never been before as a people. And even with the decline of the American society right now, we're at a pivotal point where we could really lock in and complete the journey of people like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and all these others who came along, you know, Du Bois, Booker T, everybody, all of them had a piece of the pie. And we're actually sitting in a place now where we could connect that. So we're witnessing the dismantling, not just here in America, but in Africa too, with the Sudan situation, where you have East Africa being invaded or reinvaded by Western-backed forces in order to destabilize our brother Captain Traore and others over there, while at the same time doing it here. And if we don't link in and really start to understand that and get away from the brainwashing, we're going to finish ourselves before we even start. So I really wanted to get into that, you know, and maybe discuss with you brothers what you feel about this whole foundational Black American, this delineation thing, because it's sweeping like a disease. And it's a $1 billion effort. I call it the $1 billion effort because it didn't get that far on its own. Trust me. You know, it's got backing, it's got money behind it, and it's got people behind, you know, to push that agenda that fast, that far, where now we have it from all different angles going on at a time when we need to really be together. So I don't know. What do you brothers think? The mighty council.
Yeah, you have a point there about love. We do that every week. You know, that's one particular subject that we try to touch on because we know how, as you said, how communities have dispersed and also it's been ingratiated with the westernized way of thinking. So with that westernized way of thinking, we done got away from the culture that we had. Because at one period of time, we had a culture that came together, that united, that helped one another, assisted one another, aided one another. But we don't have that anymore. And so you hit a very profound subject when you're talking about love. We do need a lot of that. A lot of that.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I think too, you know, we've allowed rugged individualism, which is Europeanism, all day long, to become our way, and it was fed to us slowly. It was a slow poisoning, you know. And me, I'm 56, so I'm taking it all the way back to when I was in high school, early high school, Miami Vice on Friday nights, you know, and Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous on Sunday.
Yeah.
Way before NWA, because everybody like to blame NWA, but way before NWA was even on the map, those two shows began to swerve us in a direction, you know, and we began to get into the cult of personality, idolizing, you know, with who's got the most money, who got the flyest, this and that. And of course, the drug culture came right behind it. And I think now we're seeing it at a new level, at a different level now, where everything is about self. I mean, you know, social media has drugged people into the self mode. Everything is about what I can do, who can see me, how many people know me. And we have this thing now where I'm working with some other people and we're talking about reversing the culture. So we call it reverse the curse. That's the name, reverse the curse. And we're going out implementing things that we know, like eating at the table together at home, you know, no phones at the table, you know, things, just small things like that, that I feel can really begin to bring back that culture, because we don't talk to each other anymore. We don't have any conversation. And because we don't conversate, we lack the ability to conversate. So most of these frictions are coming because we've lost the ability to just vibe with each other.
Yeah, everybody on their phone.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Everybody. I mean, it used to be I would just say the younger people, but man, you can go anywhere and you see the same thing. Like I was telling somebody just yesterday, the dating process, nobody goes out and meets people anymore. You go on social media and you look at somebody's back page and scan their pictures and decide, okay, I want to talk to this person. Like that's your app. I mean, that's your application. What kind of pictures you got up? So we've totally lost that. So if you transcend that into this Black struggle, how can we unify when most people don't even know what unification looks like? You know, and we way past that. So how can we unify without even understanding what it looked like?
I mean, I said time again, most of us barely even know our neighbors, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. Same age. I'm 55, and our block, our neighborhood was community, man. We used to borrow sugar and butter from the next door neighbor. If
Right.
I did something bad and Miss Barnett see me, she go whoop my ass and bring me to my parents' house, and my parents, my
Yeah.
father, my mother go
Right.
whoop my ass. You know what I mean? So by saying that, we don't even have no community anymore, man.
Yeah, I think we really gotta like one of the programs we started. This is after I left the New Black Panther Party. I got with some brothers and sisters, and we started the People's Survival Program. And we took programs straight from the original party, figured out which ones we could really do, and we started. So we started feeding, clothing, and just giving information. And one of the missions was to break the psychological hold that we have. Like black folks don't stick together. We don't care about each other. We can't do this. We can't do that. So we was like, let's just do something real simple, like feeding people. So we picked the roughest area in Harlem. Like literally day one, dudes had knives ready to cut each other and all that other stuff was going on. But we stayed with it. And we ended up changing the thinking and showing people that, we can take care of each other. We can do these things. And I think some of it has to be like those of us that know we have to reinvent it where we are. It's not going to be an organization thing. I think we've outgrown that part of it. I think it's going to be done on a smaller level, with like maybe you and your family, you know what I mean? And then the next family, you invite that family to your house. Like, yo, what you doing next week? Bring your kids and your wife to my house. And we'll all eat here on Sunday. It'll start small like that because a lot of times we're looking at it from a big scope. And I just don't think that's not real. That's not real. It's going to have to go back to small.
You know what? Us on between us four brothers, we always talk about what you just said. We always talk about that, what you just said, man. Hey, we got Huey P. Newton's son on the line right now. You know what I mean?
Man, all power to people. That's right.
Hey, so if any one of y'all want to call in and talk to the brother Shaka Mkassa, man, Shakur, the call-in number is 202.
Tell him.
Tell him the call-in number. Tell him the call-in number, brother Shaka. What's the call-in number?
202-294-7831. And that's just for tonight. That's not the usual calling number that I use on my show.
Say it again, because I had put the other number on the top of the check. 202.
Which is regular number.
Hold on. You got to say it again. Start pinning in the chat.
202.
Yeah.
294.
294. Okay. Hold on. 294. What else?
7831.
7831. 7831.
7831. So I'm gonna pin this on the top of the chat for anyone who want to call in and talk to brother Shaka Mkassa Shakur. Okay, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely like we have to be the ones to initiate. I mean, we're gonna have to create a revolution in the revolution. You know what I mean? We got to do that. Like Dr. Khalid said to me one day when I was young, we was talking, and he said, Shaka, I was kind of frustrated with people not getting it. And he was like, basically like, calm down. Don't worry about that. Just do what you do. The white man is going to recruit them for you. He's going to create a situation and they'll come to you. You ain't got to run after them. And then he was like, we're going to have to basically sell our culture back to our people. Because our people are consumers right now. We're in a consumer mind state. Capitalism, black capitalism has ravaged humanity, period. So, just like this chain I have on, it's by a company, Ancient Aura Jewelry, right? Young brother. And his whole pitch was like, you can be conscious and look fly, And I was like, I get it. He's like, you ain't got to look all corny. You can look fly and do this, that, and the other. But I was like, at first, I was like, wow. But then I thought about it. So you know what? That's his generation. You know what I mean? And he knows how to get to his generation. And that's a conversation piece. And I think a lot of times we are locked into traditions and rituals that prevent us from maturing politically and being effective. We don't move from one to like, I know how many of us, I remember an email came out, the elders then was like, I ain't gonna do no email. I write a letter. I'm not doing an email. you know, and then it went from email to videos. I'm not doing that. And then where we at right now? Like I was speaking to a couple people, one of the visions that I always had is like, just like you brothers got a podcast, I just started one, someone else just started one. We're in all these different places. We can pull together and become a network, like an actual information network. So it won't be no more tuning in to Fox or CNN or whatever. It'll be tuning in to one of us on the ground. And maybe if we in the city, like I'm in the Atlanta area, communicate with others who are on the ground in Atlanta and say, look, if this go down, let us know what's going on in your area. And so that when we get on our show, we can push it out to more people. And that's just a small way of bringing us together with the information and using this effectively, because I think some of us are getting really comfortable with our oppression. You know, we're finding ways to survive within the oppression. I was incarcerated as a young man, and I did 4 years. And I read a book at that time. It was just quotations. But in the book, Mandela's quotation struck me the most. He said when he came to Robbins Island, he was a prisoner, right? He said, but then he evolved to become a man who was imprisoned, you know? And I didn't understand it until I got older, but I do, because we are starting to accept our cage, and we're trying to find ways. We're dressing up the cage. You know, it's like being in a cell and you got your books over there, you got your fancy little rug, and you're doing all this. You're making your cell real comfortable so you can live in your cell. But we can't make this cell comfortable. We can't find a way to survive in this. We got to always be at the idea of rupturing, you know, destroying this, breaking it down. And I think that's a major problem. I don't hear that coming out of people's mouths anymore. You know, we have a lot of information, you know, about who we are and where we're coming from. But that flood of information is why we got all this beefing going on right now. Because if these people were actually implementing something to go with what they're doing, either it's going to work or it's not. That's just the real deal. So if you want to call yourself an FBA or it was ADOS or whatever you want to call yourself, okay, go build a hospital. You know, build a FBA hospital or so and so school or so and so supermarket. Let people see that it's okay to have different ideologies because we're doing that work. But we're just at the ideology stage now. You know, we're not doing the work to go along with it. So it's like, okay, at some point the youth are saying, well, I don't want to hear all that, man, because you're still not changing our situation. Like all these people who are, I don't care what their ideology, they were pissed off because those 7 Democrats flipped on the rest of the Democrats and sold them down the river. Mm-hmm. But my thing is, if you were in a revolutionary mind state like you're supposed to be in, you would have never depended on the Democrats to do anything in the first place.
Right.
It wouldn't even be a discussion. You know, since when did we start going back and depending on them? I thought we was pulling away from them. That was the goal, to pull away. You know, we only started parties to give people an option, not to reinvest in the system. We know it don't work.
Right.
Mm.
This reminds me of a book I read by W.E.B. I think it's called Black Folks or the Souls of Black Folks.
Souls of Black Folks, yeah.
And in that book, it talk about the double consciousness, your true self and your social self. And that's what we're going through right now.
Yes, sir.
Our social self is having an outward effect, and your true self is being buried deep down in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what we're doing is we constantly trying to simplify the odds. In other words, we're becoming good slaves on the plantation, silent slaves. That's the same way as they promote certain things in the media that dehumanize and makes us not so sensitive to things that happen as far as us as a people and a culture. Because when you constantly put the repetitions in your mind, you're only going to accept it, because after so while, most people don't want to fight no more. So they bury the eternal conflict, which is a crazy experience to have, because you get some black men. I see it in black men where they have an aha moment. And what I mean by aha moment, they'll be in the revolution in the conscious mindset. But what happens is they'll be reading a lot of books, and then when something really hit them reality-wise, and they spaz out. You know what I'm saying? They do something crazy, or not to us as a people, but to the other race. So we have to learn how to balance that, because we dealing with the double consciousness, which is crazy. You know, your true self versus your social self.
Yep. I think
so. Hold on, bro. Hold on, let me cut you off. Hey, Shaka, I'm getting him the right number. 202-294-7831.
Yeah, I got our West Coast chairman on the line.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry about that, brother Shaka.
All right, bro. It's all right. Yes, sir. I know community thing.
Yeah.
I realize but thank you for that. Black Power salute to the vocal dialect family, to my general under the street law soldiers, to Shaka Mkassa, for my Captain Gerald Moore. I want to holler at my brother Shaka. Me and that brother been on Facebook, Instagram.
Shaka.
Yes, sir.
Time to general. Hey, put your phone up, cause we can't. He going in and out.
Can you hear now?
No, we can't hear anything now, brother.
Can you guys hear me?
Nope.
A little bit.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
No, we can hear you now, brother Malik.
Oh, okay.
Now, brother Malik.
I'll start over. Shout out to the distinguished panel, vocal dialect, my captain of the street law soldiers, Brother General Sankofa, Captain Gerald Moore. I wanted to holler at my brother Shaka. We go back years and years and years between Facebook and Instagram. He probably recognizes my name, but we've never met. But I wanted to call in and say hello to that brother. We go back years, man. I appreciate what he's doing, what he's been doing. I remember him raising his sons. I know he's a driver on the road with those trucks, man. And I just wanted to reach out to you, brother, and let you hear my voice and me hear yours, and let the panel know that's a good brother right there. We've been rocking for a long, long time. And he has a new channel on YouTube, and I'm doing as much as I can to help you, brother, build up the station. And I just wanted to focus on something that you just said. You don't know this, brother Shaka, but the panel does. I started a rites of passage program here at my home under the street law soldiers as the West Coast representative. And something that you just said, I just wanted to add because it's very important. Not only do I have those 3 boys that I rescued from the juvenile justice system and they turned around to be great young men, I have 6 of my 10 grandsons. And I want the people to know, the panel knows this, but I want you and the people to know that absolutely, we're about to sit down at the dinner table, eat together. We eat at the same table at the same time, no phones, all men, and we talk about issues of the household, their individual issues of the world, anything that's going to help them become the gentleman that I'm trying to do my best to help them become. So shout out to you, brother. I'm honored to speak with you. You're looking good. Keep doing what you're doing. Give my love to those boys, man, because I watched you like I'm doing. Turn down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Black power to you, brother, man. Good to hear from you.
Your last feed last week, brother. On the link you sent me on your YouTube last week, I checked it out, brother, man.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I'm trying to catch up with you brothers. You know what I mean? Y'all are smarter than me.
I'm a strong believer in reciprocity, brother. Lead that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, we all.
Yes. You
know, I wanted to ask you, brother, Shaka, what is it that we can possibly do? Because we're a lot of us are elders. I mean, because taking me, I'm over 60. I'm 65 and getting older.
Right.
What is it that we possibly can do that can be more efficient of getting the young crowd involved? As you said earlier, when you said about the young fella that made the chain for you and told you you're gonna have style while you're doing it. But what can we possibly do to actually persuade them to get involved, knowing the demise that's coming about with our people and that we need to be taking care of our community to create the villages that we need in order to expand as in a community. Because as you said earlier, it started on a micro scale, but
Yes.
we want to be able to do it on a macro scale. So how can we possibly change that perspective?
I think the best thing to do, I'm gonna use a kind of an allegory, like a farmer, you know, because I'm on the land all the time. So if y'all hear me talk, you're gonna hear me refer to farming so much. But I learned that when I'm out there farming, you know, it's about season. So in the off season, I'm getting ready for the farming season. And then when I farm, I know there's a ratio of growth that will happen and a ratio that won't happen. But there's also two phases. There's a farmer and there's a gardener. And I think like when it comes to the elders, you are more of the gardeners at some state. And the gardener is the one who just, you know, works with the flower. You know what I mean? You've done your farming. You planted the seed. There's nothing you could do after that. That's another thing. Like, I think even myself coming in the movement and all, I spent a lot of time chasing after the bad weeds because I just felt like I gotta get this one. I gotta bring this brother around. And in doing that, I bypassed so many other little brothers and sisters that I could have gave my attention to them because they wanted it. But I was consumed with the European Christian conversion spirit. You know what I mean? Even in the movement, we still got that conversion spirit. We want to convert people, and you can't do that. There's no compulsion. So I think that the elder's job, definitely, you know, like they say in an African proverb, every time an elder dies, a library dies. You know, so your job is to just put it out there. You know, put it out there. Like Khalid told me, conditions are going to push people in a direction. They just got to have something to grab onto when that time comes. You know, and you might be blessed to meet someone directly that you can feed into, and then let them go feed into the young. You know, because unfortunately, there is such a huge gap in the generational thing right now that I don't think we can talk to the young one-on-one. I don't think that's possible. And it's not possible, not because of young people. Now I'm gonna be critical. Not because of young people, because of the 62-year-old gangbanger. You know what I mean? He's the problem. The 62-year-old gangbanger, the 50-year-old gangbanger. That's the problem. So they don't know what an elder is. You know, you 52 and the OG is 22. So you done messed the whole game up now. So I think we have to now just kind of like be there. Because they're going to come around. That's one thing about it. They'll come around. They're going to move around eventually to where they have the aha moment that the brother said. And when that moment comes, we just got to have it ready. So that means in this stage, we have to document. We need more writers, people writing down facts, people using video to document things and create that library. So when the young are ready, we can give them the proper seat.
I think that's key right there. I used to tell people all the time, majority of our information, 85 to 90% of our information is written by Europeans or someone else from a different ethnic group. But I have found some good books written by some Ethiopians, some people as far as like, you know, overseas or whatever. But at the same time, I tell people to start writing. You know, history is the story. You know,
Right.
And I was told by a couple of elders and some Babas, you know, the story is being told from your mother's side and your father's side, and you bring that together as a collective, and then you start your story. Because whatever your mother taught you and your father taught you, you're always gonna put that together, and that's the journey that you take. But the youth are coming along. You know what I'm saying? I'm actually kind of proud to say that.
Yeah.
I think social media, by being a gift and a curse, it has allowed the revolution to swing actually in a positive direction. Momentarily. I'm gonna say that momentarily because there's once they see the algorithm change, they always throw something in the game, especially with the media. Because one while crime was low, and I remember this crime was real low in a lot of urban cities and stuff, and then they start saying that black people are doing the knockout game, you know. And the videos they were showing on the news were old clips, and one of those clips they showed was like from London, you know.
Right.
So we definitely know how the media would definitely perpetuate madness and to keep up a level of an order of chaos. Like I tell people, anarchy is one of the five forms of government.
Yeah.
It goes into this jurisdictional concept as far as a perfect system that's being governed. I mean, it's no different than what you learn from ancient science dealing with polarity, up, down, left, right, yin, yang. So, they have to have that. But at the same time, we have to be aware of the madness that they're trying to perpetuate so we can definitely do what we have to do to offset it.
Right. Definitely. And and it's important that we understand that. Like I was telling someone the other day, like propaganda itself, we're as a movement, we're very weak when it comes to propaganda. We don't understand it. We don't know how to really use it. It gets used against us more than we use it. Like
Against them.
AI is out. I recently got into AI, right? I got on this one of those little, I think Sora.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, let me everybody doing, let me do this. So I got on and taught myself how to do it. Right away, I started putting out videos with the message I want to get out there. And I'm gonna flood it until they shut it. You know what I mean? And then I go with somewhere else. I mean, we gotta have the same attitude that I had when I was on the street hustling. I did what I did, and when it got busted, I shut down for a minute and I found another place and I went over there and started up again. We gotta have that same drive when it comes to fighting this enemy. And like the brother said, the young people, they definitely are on point. And that's why it's important for us just to be visible. I don't think elders really have to do too much because the young are seeking. If you go on social media, as soon as they mentioned that they were taking Black books off of the shelves, right away the young people went to social media and created all these little sites about Black history.
Yeah.
Right away. Nobody told them to do it. They just went over there and did it.
Yeah.
So it's us. Now what we need to do as elders is what I often do. I tag on to somebody's video. If I see it, I link it and I do a little, what they call a side-by-side clip, and just show my face, a duet with that person. So that person now knows that there's an elder that believes in what they're saying, and that's all they need to take off from there. I think we just need to be visible and remain vigilant. Like most of my uncles and aunties that raised me up, they're out of the original party. And I was always raised that as long as there's breath in your lungs, there's fight on your feet. Period. You know what I mean?
Hey, let me cut in for a second. For everyone who tuned in, we love y'all. Thanks for continue to support our channel, Vocal Dialect, because we're getting up, but positive information and always education. And if you're new, I see a few new people on here. Subscribe to the channel. We almost at 500 as well. So thank y'all. I think we had 450. Last month we were at like 315 or something. So subscribe and hit that like button and all that.
So yes, sir. I think we also, for me personally, in my journey, I think one of the things that I've come to understand is that leadership, or people who are in visibility, I don't like the word leadership, invisibility, have to be transparent. We have to talk about where we messed up, where we could have did things a little better, so that young people don't feel so persecuted when they make that same mistake.
But you know what? Like, man, you're around the same age, brother. Man, we grew up on the extreme. We was teenagers in the crack era.
Yeah.
We was teenagers when AIDS and stuff came out. You know what I mean?
And we were little kids with dope.
We was under extreme pressure, man. We had to go through a lot. Jay, I'm surprised I'm still here at 55. I never thought I'd live to be this age, be a grandfather and all this stuff. I just didn't see a way.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the stories that young people need to hear, though, because though they go through a lot, we know that a lot of what they're going through has been imposed on them because they don't want them to blossom. See, because there's really no serious drug culture right now. It's more hyped up. It's hyped up to keep them looking at it. So like, give you, for instance, the movie, what's this movie? Paid in Full, right? Now that's about the Harlem drug culture. I grew up in that. I grew up that. I know the area. I know some of the players and all that. So when I talk to young people, like when I came down south and cats are talking to me and they're like, where you from? And I'm telling them from Harlem or the Bronx. Oh, you know this? And as soon as they get into that, I'm like, nah, that ain't where it's at. That's not real. This, that, and other. You know, I shut it down real quick. I don't let them glorify it. You know,
right?
And that's what a lot of people have to do. You know, and even myself, I had to purge certain things within myself. You know what I mean? Certain behaviors that I brought. Like, you know, we only 2 days off the corner. That's what I always say. We 2 days off the corner, and you have to be critical. I was sitting with a couple of elders, and I told them, I said, you know, when I came into the movement as a young man, I was 19. I went to prison at 19, came out 23. I joined right in the movement. Boom. Even though I thank them for all of the lessons they taught me and things they showed me, the one area that I wish they would have concentrated more on is just me as a Black man, showing me how to have a relationship, how to fill out a checkbook, how to do little things like that, because those are the things that we missed. And a lot of us are getting back in the end. Some of us never get it back. And those are the key things that we have to focus on.
That's called a rites of passage.
Yes, sir. You know, and when you right in the middle of a war, like the brother said, we were in crucial times. So whether it was the drug game, and then you're talking mid-90s, it was like the whole wave of we're conscious now. We're trying to repent for all the dirt we did. But we never really focused on ourselves. We never really focused on what we could have did better. And then even in the movement, you know, we have to demystify this whole movement thing. You know, get it out of the clouds, demystify it. You know, just because you drop something don't mean you ain't gonna go through something. You know, just because you have intelligence doesn't mean you don't have, you know, tribulation and trials. And you got to be willing to sit down and say, yeah, you know, I made a bad move over there, you know, or I treated that sister a certain way and I shouldn't have done it, you know, or, you know, this is Shaka Shakur now, because I'm always beating myself. You know, when I realized I had a talent to be able to talk to people and be able to move people in a direction with what I said, you know, I shouldn't have done certain things with that talent. But I had no training, like the brother said. There was no rites of passage to teach me that you do have a skill. We've been watching you since you were a child. We know you have this skill. We're here to make sure, you know, you do the right thing with that skill. You know, we're the Faisal, the bird in Lion King. We're that bird that flies over you, that's your conscience, reminding you, hey, don't do that. That's not what that's for. You know, you didn't get that gift from the ancestors to do this or that or the other. Same thing with our young sisters. You know, they are coming into age and they're realizing they have power. They do. They realize I have the power. I can make men do whatever I want. And they watch older women who play with that power and teach them to play with that power. You know, that's a power. Same thing with brothers. We got a power. And because the movement is so political and we don't deal with our African spirituality and understanding these things that we brought over with us that are real, part of that custom is we don't watch our children when they're young. You know, we don't watch them to see what natural skill that's a natural leader right there. That just, you know, this is so and so. Like when you old, like down south, I lived in the South as a young man, and I remember elders telling me that boy gonna be a preacher. That boy gonna be a preacher.
Yeah,
you know, of course I brushed it off like, man, I ain't trying to be a preacher. I ain't trying to hear none of that. But what they were saying, it was something about me that was speaking to other people. You know, and had I had somebody guiding me, I wouldn't have played with it. There's times I played with it. Let's just keep it 100. You know, it's like a superpower. We play with it.
Yeah.
And then you might get lucky enough to get it right when you get older, or you might do so much damage you can't take it back. But we got to stop that. So when that young man is, you know, he ain't got gift of gab. He's just gifted. And we got to show him what to do with that. Show that sister what to do with that. You know, and don't criminalize them. Stop. This is not a religion. You know, we're not teaching religion here. We're teaching culture. You know, how do we greet our elders? You know, you brothers are my babas. You know, I'm not your equal. I'm your little brother.
Right.
I'm the youngest.
I look at him like that too.
You, brother.
You know what I mean?
I look at you like that.
We got.
Hey, but let me state this though.
Yes, sir.
You know, when we talk about when I was talking about the young the teenagers, the young people that are younger than you are,
Yes.
And the reason why I stated that because, you know, we still send our kids to the 12-step program, which is the school system. Now, as they say, when you send your kids to that school system, you send them as a child that comes from a village. But when they get sent back, you got a Roman soldier.
Right.
That's been indoctrinated,
Right.
then been coerced, then thought everything about this system, and it stagnates the family because you're trying to convince them of one thing, but they so convinced about what they've been and coerced about what they were taught in school. So we also have that through the music system. The music of the artists are set up strategically to grasp our kids' way of thinking. So they've been molded to think a certain way. So you're fighting against those two elements. How you possibly gonna change that?
Well, I did it. This is okay. Again, micro. Starting at home. I was gonna have. I have 3 daughters. I was best dad. All out there doing the craziness, whatever. And then I got a second chance. I had my son, my first son. So I'm determined. I'm gonna get this right. So I start studying. I'm reading. I'm putting everything into play. Right. I think the Bible for me was Conspiracy to Destroy Young Black Boys, Dr. Kwanzaa Kunjufu. That was my Bible. I followed it all the way through. And when he came into this world, my son, Kasahan, I began to understand more about what was being done to our children and the fact that they're born geniuses. They are. They're literally born geniuses. My son spoke another language other than English. I had to teach him Spanish because he was with a Spanish babysitter and he picked it up that fast. And I'm like, wow, and then they get dumbed down. So I said, okay, I'm not going to create a school. That's a little too much. But I'm going to create a support program because like you said, Baba, they get programmed. So we got to scrub the program. So we created the Jiname University. And I told parents, I don't need your children 5 days a week, just one day. And I want to do it on a Saturday because they just got out of school on Friday. So on Saturday morning, we're going to scrub their brain. So when they go back on Monday, they have a buffer system set up. Like in a computer, the computer has a firewall. We have to create cultural firewalls so that they can go into that system, but they know the truth too. See, so my thing was, they're gonna tell you who George Washington is. I'm gonna tell you who he really is.
Right.
And we're gonna let you know what's really going on. Okay. Don't go in there and argue with them. Let them tell you. You just go through the motions. And after a while, the children began to shine. And all the children went on to do good. My children, I took them out of school. I put them out. I searched around, and I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna put them in this 12-step. This 12. K-12 program. I did the research, talked to a lot of people, and they were like, yeah, it's decent. I said, you know what? Because they got to get some of that King's English to survive. So I'm gonna send them in the least dangerous aspect of that. I don't want them out of the house. I don't want them because it's not just school that programs them. It's the environment that goes along with the school. You're detached from your child for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So at least that way, if they're being homeschooled, you're not as detached. You can have some interaction. And then you gotta, as parents, we gotta become responsible. They got that 12 program, but you also got the Jiname University program that you're gonna study just as hard as that one. And then I take them places. I take my sons out. Let's go out and go camping. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do that to offset it. When my sons were little, both of them, when they were real little, I used to take them to the museum. And they could hardly walk, but we're going to walk around this museum and I'm going to teach them what's going on here. I learned that you have to dump as much as you can early because it's going to come back later. It's going to be reciprocal later, but we have to go into this understanding we're at war. And a lot of us are not doing that. We still believe that, get a good job, you're going to be okay, it's going to be all right. It's not going to be all right. And we got to be the ones that set that up. So I think these small programs need to be created all over the place. Just small counter-insurgent programs, that we create to teach our culture, teach them tradition. We really set up a cultural school, like how to greet your elder. I don't just come shake your hand. That's European. That ain't our culture. That's not granddaddy, that's Baba. That's Nana. You know what I mean? That's your Ndugu over there. You know, we started doing that. And then we started chipping away at the deliberate doubt put in their brain. You know, we had a thing called the 10 program. And we got inspired from the party, but the 10 program was, we said, look, bilingual means you can speak more than one language. That's what bilingual means. If you can say hat in more than one language, you're bilingual. So we just taught the children how to count to 10 in different languages. That's all, just 1 to 10. It's very simple, but it boosts their self-esteem. So when that child goes to school and gets introduced to a new language, they won't freak out. They won't be nervous because they've been doing that since they was kids. You know, those are the things that I know for a fact work because I did it and my children are living proof. You know, and I keep up with all the children that were part of the program. The school hasn't been in effect since 2015. It's 2025. Every last one of those children that came there have graduated and gone on doing their thing. So that's what we have to do, is start with the people closest to you. Grab your grandchildren, your cousins. You know, if, you know, elders got to start taking reign, demanding we have family reunions. It's not optional. You know, we having family reunions, and I'm going to your house to make sure you'll come. You know, that's another thing. We got to go pull up on each other. I ain't seen you in a while. Where you been? You know, get to know the younger generation within your family, because they're going to give you the keys on how to reach their peers.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
You know,
right.
it's gonna come from we don't have to beat our brain up. Reach out to them young ones that's in your family, like I do. I reach out to the young ones. I see them online, and I chop over. Hey, what's going on? You know, I love you. I'm proud of you. What you doing? What's going on? And then through them, I let them kind of do on their own. I just put a little seed in every now and then, and let them do. You know, and let them take over. They're okay. They're gonna figure it out. We just gotta give them a little extra on the side.
Definitely the youth is the
That's
key,
tremendous.
man.
Yeah, the youth the key, man. And they're in a better place than we often give them credit for.
Oh, absolutely. You said it earlier when you said that when you take a child at a young age, their minds are so malleable, they absorb information like a sponge. That's why they're capable of, as you said, speaking different languages and whatever have you. Those of us
Right.
that have kids that have been around them, we know that about them.
Yep, that's right.
All of them have
And
their own uniqueness and talent.
yes, yes. You know, and you gotta train. We have to do for the youth what the Black Panther Party of the 60s did in the community with the 10-10 program, where they would go into communities and identify community leadership. And then they would train the leader in that community to be the leader in that community. And then they pull out and let them lead. We got to do the same thing. We have to train our children. That's what other races do. They train their children to be leaders in their community. You know, we have to do the same, but we can't co-sign bullshit. You know what I mean? We just can't.
That's right.
You know?
That's
So
right.
that means certain music, parent, you got to stop listening to. You know, I had to scrub some playlists. I had my little Angry Man playlist I used to listen to with all that 90s rap. You know, I'm all mad. It worked for, but I thought about, so wait a minute. I can't listen to this and then tell them not to.
That's right. That's
I can't do
exactly.
this no more. You know what I mean? I can't drink. I can't smoke. I can't do those things because they can't do it. And there was a time when I was living on two sides, you know what I mean? And it caught up with me one day when I realized, like, wow, now it's not even about being hypocritical. I'm training a soldier. I got to train him right. You know, you got to talk to your children. Children feel like they're not listened to. Well, that's every generation. You know, every generation, when you're at a certain age, you feel like nobody listened to you. And when we were young, that was true because they ain't want to hear nothing we had to say. It was,
No, they ain't want to hear that.
yeah, nothing.
They should tell us, say, kids are not to speak until spoken to.
Right. Seen and I heard.
That was one of them actions we did. I removed that from my children.
Right.
I told them, you could say whatever you needed to say to me as long as it's respectful, because they're going to grow to be mature adults and they're going to have to learn how to speak up for themselves.
That's right. And they got to start at home, you know. I mean, I even asked my sons, I'm like, you think I'm a good dad? You know, I asked my daughter, you think I'm a good dad? And I tell them, tell me the truth, man. Tell me what I need to pick up on. Let me know. Because I never want them to be afraid to speak truth to power. You know, they're not going to become revolutionaries by osmosis. We have to teach them those skills. You know, Jean-Jacques Dessalines was trained by a woman who was a warrior from Benin. She was one of those warriors, the homie. she trained him on how to fight. He didn't just get that naturally.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we have to train our young on how to fight. You know, not what to fight, how to fight. You know, and we have to also, I think, as I become, because I'm an elder in training now. You know, I'm not quite there yet. So as I get there, my responsibility is to be the offsetter of the nonsense. You know, so when I'm online and I see a certain thing, you know, those that follow my post know I'll post certain things because I wanted to be known that no, we not accepting that. That particular idea is not gonna fly. You know, we're not gonna do that no more. You know, we've all done it. Now we're gonna get over that. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. You know, we have to be the ones to put the foot down because it's our turn. You know, the youth got to get behind something. And if we don't give them something to get behind, they're gonna get behind something else.
Yeah,
That's right.
I say that
Absolutely.
because the youth is the key. The future cannot unlock itself. It's gonna take me, you, Shaka, Gerald, Ken. There's no way possible the future can unlock itself.
Right.
Someone's gonna show it, or they're gonna gravitate to something. And you don't
Exactly.
want you what we have now is essentially some of the wrong things unlocking the youth.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got these young white Jewish boys who have made millions off of this O Block and what's going on in Chicago, which was the prelude to Trump sending troops to Chicago. You know, so you see how this works. Now all these underground videos that were bigging up who was the King Von guy and all these other guys and how these young people are killing each other, and these young white dudes are putting microphones in their face. Tell us why you did this, why you did that, why you did this. And these young brothers and sisters who want a voice are given a voice now, but there's a voice that's being used against them.
Yeah.
And all that set up a roadmap. So when they sat in the office and was like, what are we going to attack first? Well, yo, let's get at the Chicago thing. You know, because it's really
I'm gonna let me cut you off.
Yeah.
Them used to be apartments right off on
Yeah.
64th and King Drive. It wasn't no old block.
With
See?
the old block.
Projects on the side of it, but let me tell you about they took out all the high-rise projects in Chicago. It was like 2000, 2001.
Right.
Chicago had a lot of high-rise. The whole city was filled with projects.
Right.
So you take all it. That's how I know it was a setup. It was all a plan, man. It was all a plan. So they take all them people in the projects. You know, the projects go to 17, 18 floors easy. They spread them all over the city, right? So now they got rid of all the ancient brothers. Like Jeff Ford, you know,
right.
all of them. Eliminated them. Some of them on crack, some of them locked up forever, whatever. You know what I mean? So we did have structure. Even though some things we was doing wrong, we couldn't just go out there and do nothing and didn't pay for it.
Without
They
no consequence.
do it. So check this out. So you got these kids with no structure, no leadership now. They all over the city, now they're in rival territory.
Yep.
That's what happened in Chicago. They tore down about 50 schools in the Black and Hispanic neighborhoods. Where around in them schools that the kids was going to, now they going to rival schools.
Right.
You can't tell me, you know the rival gang schools. So you can't tell me this wasn't all the plan, man.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was designed that way.
Like I was staying over in it's that Morrow. That's it, Morrow County, over there by Stockbridge, and that area is like that's like little New Orleans over there. Like everybody over there I met is from New Orleans, and they all came there after the storm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. And so in Morrow, that's all them people from New Orleans.
It was flooded. Yeah, I remember that.
You know what I mean? And they said, because I met them, they like, well, we came here after Katrina. You know, I said, well, what happened when y'all first got here? They said most of them was on the other side by Old National, on that area.
Yeah.
But when they dropped them in there, the rivalry started because they didn't know nobody. They outsiders. And then once the rivalry started, boom, now we in it. And see, we have to be the ones to put those pieces together for people. And that's where the propaganda comes from. to be able to break it down and show how this is being done. It's not an accident. It's not an accident that all of a sudden, gang culture became the culture.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's a culture, meaning it is a way of life for people involved in that life, but it's not the African people's way of life. That's not our culture. That's a culture that derived. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now it's being marketed as if like that's part of the Black American experience.
Yep.
And it's not.
Yep, it's not.
That's not our culture.
Propaganda.
Yeah.
So if I'm brother that lived in say London or something, I'm saying all this going on in the US, you would think that's how Black people act for real.
Yeah.
Looking at the love, hip hop, and all that BS, you think the sisters act like that for real? All it's propaganda, man.
Yeah, and then you got people that chase it because like people want to be validated. One thing about human nature, we want to be respected and accepted. That's human nature. We're mammals. We're elevated, evolved mammals. We're not reptiles or anything else. And if you look at mammals move in groups. Yeah. Whether it's a pack of dogs or elephants, dolphins, we always move in groups. So it's natural for us to want to be a part of something, And so naturally people gravitate to that. And then, like you said, the media helps it and pushes it and things of that nature. And then now I'm going back to the household. You can't be in the house, you 56, 57, and you game banging. Or it's cool to game. No, it's not cool. I got cousins that I love them, but bro, I can't rock with you right now. I'm sorry, I just can't. You know what I mean? I can't play both sides of the gate. And there was a time that I did that. There was a time this entire movement did that. And that's where we fell off. We fell off because at one point, when I was a young dude, and this is before I got incarcerated, I was in the Rasta movement back then in the 80s. I remember people would break their necks to greet somebody. Like, they looked at positivity as a step up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They looked at being positive as a step up. But somewhere in the middle, it used to be like, to be a Panther, we had to give up the street life. You can't be a part of that. It's kind of revolutionary. Right. Then it flipped somewhere where after a while, you got people in the movement imitating the gang life.
I think it was before that, brother, because in the 60s, we had the movement, so probably the early 70s, but, remember the black exploitation came out, the big drug deal. I think that's where the shift was at. It started right there.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And it's like, if you notice, it died down, though. Like, I remember before I got locked up, of course, everybody was selling drugs was the thing. I came home in 93. It was fading out in New York. Crack was not, it really wasn't there. You know what I mean? People got on to doing other things like vending. If you remember the movie Malcolm X, at the end of the movie with all the vendors on 25th Street. Yeah. When I came home, that didn't exist before I left. When I came home, that was the way. So everybody was like, word, I could just get some clothes. I could sell some buttons. I could sell some books. I ain't got to do I'm with it. So we took our little savings. I took my little jail savings and invested in some buttons. And then from buttons, I went to selling glasses and books. And then pretty soon clothes. And now dudes are coming from up north and I'm putting them on to selling clothes. Like, you ain't got no money? Go sell these Timberlands. Go sell these knockoff this. Go sell that. And we drifted away from that. And then a wave came around even recently. Like heroin is back on the top charts now. With young, it's back up there now. We lived with that in the 60s and 70s. And it's back now, full speed. And then you got these shows, the Snowfalls and all these other shows that are highlighting that era. And then you got
it's all propaganda. All that is propaganda.
And then it gets the nail in the coffin is when you got these podcasts, and I'm going to keep it 100. I've never really been on any podcast because I understand how this government works. Everybody ain't getting it out the dirt. Some people being funded to have these podcasts to push a certain image.
Yeah.
COINTELPRO, it didn't stop in the 60s, and it ain't just the movement. Now it's proactive. Now they get people and say, look, we'll give you this money, we give you this money, but you got to push this. So you see they set up all the bright lights and all that, and all of a sudden they went from nobody watching it to 2.6 million a week later.
Yeah.
And they pushing a message. And then they got cats on there now who, let's be real, probably the nobody dude on the block. But you alive long enough to know the story. So now I bring you on my podcast, and now you OG so-and-so. And you telling a story that you didn't even live to babies who eating it up. You know,
money,
and they push that agenda. All for the money, right? You know,
yeah.
And so these are the things that this is where the war starts. This is where we got to counter it. We got to be aggressive with the attack and put out more shows like what you're doing that I just started because of you, brothers like you know, inspired me. Like, I got to get on this too. And we got to start cross-linking and denouncing and defaming and debunking. You know, we got to go on an anti-propaganda mission against their propaganda. It's war. You know, everything should be done in a state of war. You know, that's the flavor. You know, that's how we were taught. If you wipe a window, wipe it revolutionarily. You know, and that's got to be the message.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, the book of Khalid Muhammad Malik Zulu Shabazz. Okay. Hey, before we end the show, man, you guys go ahead and give your final remarks. Go ahead, brother Shaka.
I'm just listening and observing tonight, because you know, everything that Brother Shakur is saying, you know, we actually he was more closer to Dr. Carl. I was more of what they call the farmer, you know, because Dr. Carl always said, wait your turn is coming.
Right.
And I couldn't grasp that concept initially, but I remained a humble student. And everything that he touched on, even to the point of the dismantlement of the traditions and cultures, you know, of our communities, these, you know, going out, in which we still do today, 20 years and running, providing food, clothing, drug treatment referrals, and mental health referrals for our brothers and sisters that are underprivileged and downtrodden, because actually those are, whether we want to accept it or not, as well as these so-called gangs, that's our military, you know, and, you know, to be able to, you know, be hands-on with our people, because we do so much talking. Like the guy was saying, we do so much talking and no activism. We don't, you know, and most of the people you do see on social media have no recorded history or no documentation of ever pounding the pavement, you know, and that's it. That's very, very vital, you know, because our young people, they emulate what they see. And so we have to make our presence in the community to let them know there is an alternative.
Right.
By working and retiring from working in these youth correctional facilities and these group homes, you know, I've counseled hundreds, maybe thousands of our youth in the DMV period. And so to be able to address those needs and these issues, but because like you were saying, no one takes the time to talk to them, because most of the adults, and I'm gonna be honest, most of the people 40 plus are comfortable in their captivity, you know, and we have to be able to move beyond that and be the beacons of light and beacons of hope for those young people who are searching. You had mentioned, you know, spending a lot of time trying to revive somebody or resuscitate somebody, and you got other people that are willing, you know, and have their hands extended out, waiting to be resuscitated. So we have to be able to touch those who are searching, because our genius young people are searching, for answers. They're searching for direction. They're searching for love. Some of our young men have been abused. You know, some need to be hugged. You know, they need to be shown how to wear a bow tie, how to get their hands dirty, how to, uh, you know, do construction and be, and so they can feel a part of society, so they can feel the essence of what real Black men are made of, and what constitutes Black manhood. And so, you know, you touched on a great deal of things. So I was just sitting back because the conversation that we had, I know it was 20 years or something plus, and you always humble, man. You were always humble, but you stood. You haven't changed. You haven't changed. You just evolved spiritually, and you have done some things that are triumphant. And we are the unsung heroes, you know. And we have to, as men, man, credit each other, honor each other. You know, let the young people see, you know, how to properly acknowledge men, you know, and give them their just due, you know, and encourage them, you know, to be the great people that they're destined to be. Because if not, then this cycle is going to repeat itself again, and then we'll be back into the 60s and 70s. So
Wow.
I appreciate you, brother. I really do.
Shay,
For
thank you.
sure.
Yeah, Brother Shaka, I want to thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming and summarizing things which is affecting us as a community, as well as being a good father, and me trying to summarize it all, because Shaka said everything that needed to be said as far as that concerned. But continue on your path, man, and we support you, and we hope that we can always stay in touch, because you can always be a brother.
Yeah, yes,
Love
sir.
you, bro.
Love
Yeah,
you too.
yeah. I want to say, man, you know, follow this brother Shaka. He the Bush Doctor on TikTok and also YouTube. So follow the Bush Doctor on YouTube and TikTok. That's how I found the brother a few months back on TikTok, and I stayed listening to his stuff. You know what I mean? Cause like minds think
Yes, sir.
alike. You know, and also we got the General T. Shaka Sankofa. Follow the General T. Shaka Sankofa on Facebook. He go live, you know, on in the evenings between 7:30, 8:30 Eastern time. And he's going on next at he'll be online tomorrow at 8:30 EST. So go to Facebook and follow the General T. Shaka Sankofa. He going live tomorrow at 8:30. And also follow us, Vocal Dialect, on TikTok, Facebook, IG as well. Peace. That's all I got to say.
All right, family. It's another episode, a good episode. We thank the brother Shakur, for coming through and you know, just showing us some love, man. You know, we really appreciate it. We also, you know, thank everybody who tuned in and listened in. I'm gonna drop a book before we leave. A good book about propaganda. Is The Myth and Propaganda of Buying Black Power by Jared Ball. You guys can check that book out. Hey, we see you guys next week. Peace. Man, take care of yourself out there. Stop falling for the banana in the tailpipe, and always be woke and stay woke. And don't let your wokeness be a fad. Continue to stay on this journey because it's empowering, and also it's important for you to know where you come from and where you going. Peace, family.
While I day.